Thank y'all for joining me tonight. My name is Heather, and this is I Got You podcast. And tonight I'm welcoming Mitch and Coach. They are both fathers who lost their child, Danielle and Earl Jr. So what I'm gonna do is gonna have y'all just tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your child, and the loss, if you don't mind.
I'm originally from North Carolina, been here in Texas or in the Dallas area now. Going on 18 years, I've been here. Former Army veteran, spent a brief stint playing some professional football with the 49ers and with the Giants. I've been a football coach since 1996. I'm an IT salesman now, along with football coach as well as a football trainer. I also own my own concrete business. So I'm somewhat of a jack of all trades. That's basically it about me. But as far as EJ is concerned, so my wife and I was a single father when I was in the military, and I had my daughter, my oldest daughter. So single father, met my wife. She and I had EJ. EJ was I mean, as close to perfection as you can get. We know nobody's perfect, but he was as close to perfection as you can get. And what I mean by that is when he passed, I had about 10 kids come up to me and write letters or come up to me and call me or whatever and say he was my best friend. And so in order for people to feel that way about you, you have to be a good kid. Not only was that the case, he was a straight A student. He never made a B or anything lower. He's always made straight A's. It was funny. I tell the story. One day he got his progress report and he came home and he had a B on his progress report. And I think it was an 89, 88 or 89. So I walk in the house from work and he had all of his video games and cell phone sitting on the counter. He said, I know I'm in trouble. I got a B on my progress report. Now, he's thinking he's in trouble. I'm tickled to death because if your lowest grade is a point away or 2 points away from an A on a progress report, then I'm tickled to death. But I said, I gave him that stern conversation. Hey, look, we got to pull this B up. We got to get a high A so we don't have to worry about it being this low or being a B. So, that was the story we always tell. I don't know if you guys know about Duke TIP. Duke is a talent program that they have at Duke University.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was actually on the National Honor Society for middle schoolers, as well as in high school. But at the age of 12, EJ took the ACT and made a 21 on it.
Wow.
There's a lot of college students that can't do that. So he like I said, he was gifted, but he was the kindest, most, it's hard to explain. And I tell people all the time. So my way of getting through some of my grief is just, thanking God that he truly allowed me to raise one of his angels for 15 years. He was a special kid, really. He truly, I used to always tell people, if that was not my son, I would really like that kid because I work with a bunch of kids all the time through coaching, high school, college, NFL, Little League. So I worked with a bunch of kids all the time. But I would always say, if this kid was not mine, he would be somebody I really liked. Going into his 9th grade year, so he went to a high school called Lone Star High School here in Frisco, Texas. And that is one of the toughest schools to play football at. If you Google NFL players from Lone Star, you probably find 10 to 12 players currently in the NFL now from just this one high school. So EJ came home one day and he said, Dad, I made the A team for the 9th graders. I'm like, son, I think you're a pretty good football player, but I don't think you made the A team. You're too small. 2, I don't know if you're good enough. So I didn't say anything about it. So he came home the next day. Yeah, the A team has practice. I said, son, I don't know if you really made the A team. So let me call the coach and make sure you're not being misled. So I called the coach and I said, hey, coach, I don't know if EJ has been misinformed, but he told me he made the 8 team. Can you sort of confirm that for me? So the coach said, hey, Coach Rose, I just want to tell you, of all the players, ninth grade through varsity, he's the smartest kid on the football field I've ever seen.
Wow.
I said, well, he's the smallest kid on your ninth grade team. He says he's got to be on my ninth grade A team. He's got to be a starter. He knows more football than everybody on this football team.
Wow.
I'm like, really? He could tell you. It was funny. A friend of mine and I, we both had our sons in the car with us. We were going to an all-star football game here in Texas. Actually, it was to a Cowboys game, as a matter of fact. And we were just chopping it up. And he said he asked EJ who the starting running back was for a team, and EJ said, wow, that's easy. So he told him the name. EJ said, I can tell you the backup running back on every team. But that's just what he was. He was an exceptional kid. He in the all through middle school, he was on the track team, the basketball team, and the football team. He was a captain on all three. Like I said, honor society. In his school, in his middle school, he was the only African American kid on the National Honor Society in the entire school.
Wow.
So, like I said, he was just special. He truly, truly was, and he had this. So, fast forward to when we found out he had leukemia, December 26, 2019. We, me, him, and his mom, we're doing returns after Christmas, the day after Christmas. So we decided to go do some returns. We stopped at a restaurant to grab some food, and EJ's telling me, Dad, my elbows are hurting real bad. He said, my elbows, I can't put my jacket on. And he was never somebody who complained. Now, my first thought was, okay, well, last night, Christmas night, he's in the garage lifting weights. I'm like, you sure it's not from that? He said, no, Dad, this feels different. So I'm like, and I don't know what it was. It was just truly a sign from God. I just said, you know what? This kid never complains about anything. I said, we're going straight to the hospital. I took him straight to the ER. And you wouldn't think to go to the ER when your child says my elbows hurt.
Right.
So I said, we're going to the ER. So we go to the ER up in Frisco, and they do all kinds of tests. And then I said, well, check his blood, make sure everything's good. So when they check his blood, they found out he had a real high white blood cell count. So they transport him down to Children's Hospital down in Dallas. It's a real big children's hospital here in Dallas. So they transport him down there. So he spends about 2 weeks in the hospital there. We found out that he had two different types of leukemia. He had ALL and CML leukemia. Now, medication got rid of the CML leukemia, but we couldn't get a close enough bone marrow donor to take care of the ALL. So we wound up having to use his mom. We couldn't use me. She was a closer match than I was. Now, had my daughter been biologically by me and my wife, she would have been a 10 out of 10 match. My wife, I think, was a 6 out of 10. I was a 5 out of 10. So we used my wife's bone marrow. So he goes into the hospital again. So he's in the hospital for New Year's. He gets out, I think, about the 5th of January, comes home. We're going to regular doctor's appointments. And like I said, the CML was taken care of by medication. The ALL, he still had to go in and get the bone marrow transplant. So April 13th, 2020, we go to the hospital. He has the bone marrow transplant, I think, on the 21st. And ironically, he started getting better. So around June, of course, in order to get the bone marrow to take, they had to take away his complete immune system. So when they did that, of course, that was where the hair loss comes, the black fingernails, and all of those different things. So, but he's fine. We're in his hospital room playing video games. I got him a little basketball goal up on the door, and he's shooting basketball every day and playing video games on the cell phone. Another ironic thing he was doing. I didn't know this. So on Cash App, you have where you can actually buy stock. So he took some money he took some of his money out of his savings and put it into his Cash App, and he started buying stock. The whole time he was in the hospital, he kept saying, "Dad, buy some Tesla stock, buy Tesla." And I'm like, "What is Tesla? I'm not buying any Teslas." Now, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what Tesla would become, but he did. So after he passed, I look at his Cash App. He's got like $13,000 sitting in his Cash App account where he had bought stock from Nike, GameStop, and Tesla. Like I said, the kid was different. But in June, the doctor came in. He's doing well, and they said, "Well, he's ready to go home," and we're excited. He gets up, he goes to the bathroom and uses the restroom, and he tries to pee. And when he pees, nothing but blood comes out. So they had to do, what do you call it when a lady's pregnant?
Ultrasound?
Ultrasound. They did an ultrasound, checking his stomach and things like that. So then they went back in. They had to go back in because they saw a mass in his stomach. They didn't know what it was, but it was a huge blood clot. Bladder was bleeding, and it was bleeding profusely. Like, they could not stop it. I think they did maybe 4 or 5 different surgeries. They tried all types of things, sponge, incision. I mean, not incisions, but sutures, all kinds of things. But they couldn't stop his bladder from bleeding. So that sort of progressed. And the next thing that happened, he started going through kidney failure from that. So after he went through a couple of weeks of kidney failure, he went through one of his lungs collapsed. His body was just breaking down. It was that graft versus host thing. And so his body was breaking down. So that finally was sort of ended everything when he had so they had to intubate him again. And of course, being intubated, being fed through a tube, he was, just wasn't himself anymore. And so, and he was fighting. I told him the night we found out he had leukemia, I told him, "I'm going to fight for you, and we're going to fight together until it's all over with." He said, "Okay, Daddy, I trust you." So the one thing of everything that happened, I have one regret. The regret that I have is when I said I was going to fight for him, when the doctors told me that they were going to take the tube out, and they said that if I wanted to try to resuscitate, I said yes. That is one thing I wish I would have done different. I should have said no, because that process of them trying to resuscitate him sort of took away his dignity.
Right.
All the fluid that was in him, it was coming out of his mouth. And the one thing I did not want his mother to see was that. And we were in his room when that was going on. So that was the only regret I had. But when they pulled the tube, before they pulled the tube out, we sat in the room with a bunch of doctors, and they said, "Well, he's technically gone already. So we're going to take the tubes out and see if he can last or if he can make it." So I said, "Okay," went back to his room. Me and his wife, I put the nurse and the doctors out. I just walked up to him and I told him, I said, "You fought hard. We fought hard. You don't have to fight anymore. It's tough. You don't have to." That was it. And so it was crazy because his numbers were going down right after they pulled the tube out. But all of a sudden, his numbers shot up to normal. And he had this huge smile on his face. And then, like 30 seconds later, they just went straight down and he flatlined. And so my wife, myself, and my daughter, we washed him up and put on his new sweatsuit. And, and then they came and got him and took him to the morgue. So the hospital's about 35 minutes from my house. So I drive from the hospital, and I hadn't eaten all day, and I stopped by Applebee's, and this is probably 11. So he passed at maybe, I think it was 8:20 that night, something like that. So I pull up at Applebee's, and the whole day, now this is September in Dallas, and so it's still 85 degrees outside, sunny, beautiful day. As I get out of my truck, I had bought him a truck while he was in the hospital, and I told him, when you come home, you got a brand new truck waiting on you, blah, blah, blah. So I get out of this truck, and as I'm walking to the door, well, actually, I'm at the back of the truck, a cold wind, and I know people don't believe in a lot of this stuff, but a cold wind came over and just sort of knocked me down. I fell down to one knee holding on to my truck, and I go into Applebee's and I order my food, and I didn't think anything of it. And I'm on Facebook and I'm just reading people's messages because I hadn't posted anything about EJ passing or anything. And my wife had told her friend who lived up in Frisco. And it was so ironic. She had just posted, EJ just flew over Little Elm in Frisco. It was so the wind, I mean, it wasn't just me that felt that wind. Yeah, it was something. So yeah, he was definitely a fighter. He was a scholar. He was like I said, this kid at the age of 7 was cutting the grass by himself. He was a special kid. We definitely, if you, I mean, Heather, I'm sure you see my Facebook page every so often. I'll post things about him.
Yeah.
But he was just a special kid, and that's what I do to keep his memory alive. I keep his memory alive.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing.
That's good, Coach, man.
Yeah.
You got me over here about to shed some tears.
I know, right? That's why I keep
Hey,
looking.
bro, the onions get cut around here all the time.
Right.
All right, Mitchell.
Well, my name is Donald Mitchell, and like Coach, I'm a veteran of the Navy. I did 30 years, and you know, I truly appreciate that time spent, and then I worked for a number of years at the VA as one of their service chiefs. So I appreciate that, and you know, all the things that, you know, God has blessed me with. My little angel that I lost, Danielle, she was the apple of my eye. She was my first daughter. And you know, she was as all I can say is she was something else. She was something else. You know, she was a good student. She graduated from Bennett College, and the one thing that I could tell you about her, you know, when I was at work, I get a phone call from her, and it used to be an ethical decision. You know, do I answer this phone? And if I do answer, there's anyone around me? You know, because sometimes she's fussing me out, or sometimes she's been, you know, my baby girl. But for the most part, she was fussing me out about something I didn't do or something like that. Another thing about Danielle was, you know, she gave me 3 beautiful grandboys, you know, Dallas, Dakota, and Denver. And every time I see them, each one of them has a characteristic of her. So it always makes me smile. So even though she's gone, her memory is still here. So when I got the call about Danielle passing, basically the story was, and this is secondhand information, she was taking her youngest son to the bus stop for him to go to school. And she was on the phone with her mother, and she said, you know, hey, I don't feel good. I'm gonna go back to the house and lay down. You know, so she went back and laid down, and never woke up. That to me, when the story was told to me, you know, I said, you know, there had to be some precipitating factor for this. What is going on? So the one thing that I wanted to hear was the autopsy report. You know, what was the cause of death? And the cause of death was basically, they said, a heart attack. You know, but for me, you know, I wanted to know, the nurse in me, because I'm a nurse, wanted to know what her numbers were. Was her troponin elevated? You know, was her microalbumin? What, you know, all those things. I'm thinking about all of those. Was her cortisol level elevated? Because I wanted to know so I could educate my family. You know, because the one thing I didn't want is for not only my children, for anyone else to die of such thing. So that was kind of like my marching orders. The other thing was, like you with that gust of wind, Danielle loved butterflies. And what happened in her passing, I was doing some things, in my yard in the front. And the next thing I know, man, butterflies start coming around. Blew me away. Mm-hmm. And, all I could do was cry. And in closing, Danielle and I became closer than close when I got on dialysis. When I was doing my dialysis from home at one point in time, and she and I would talk, while I'm on dialysis. We would talk about some of everything, the good times and the bad times. And when she passed away, I couldn't do dialysis at home anymore. I chose to go into the center and do it because I just didn't feel comfortable, because Danielle would ask me those crazy questions, doing this, doing that. Hey, I'm going to hang up with you for a little bit because I got to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to call back in 30 minutes while you're getting off. Mm-hmm. And those things made me feel good and well supported. I was supported by my whole family, but it was just something about baby girl that just made me feel even more better. And Coach, I know you shared your son's birthday. The one thing I could say is that each December 1st, my oldest daughter that passed, Danielle, and my youngest daughter, Portia, shared the same birthday. So I'm extremely happy about that.
Now, how old was she when she passed?
34.
Okay. You mentioned the butterflies. I know for me, I think it was last year. Mm-hmm. It may have been last year or the year before last. On my daughter's birthday, I'm driving down the highway now. Just imagine thousands of cars on the highway in Dallas traffic. I'm directly behind a car. This is no joke. I took a picture of it. I'm directly behind a car, and the license tag said "Forever EJ."
Wow.
Blew me away. Now, since I built this home, that truck that I said I bought for EJ, I keep it in my driveway. Every so often, a cat will come sit on the top of this truck every night. He'll do it for maybe 3 or 4 nights, and then the cat will disappear. And then maybe a month or two later, that cat will come back. I was going to go put some cat poisoning out there. No. And then I read about it, and I'm like, well, maybe that's a sign.
Yeah.
Right. But so it freaked me out so bad on my daughter's birthday that license tag was in the car right in front of me, man. Right. It just blew me away. And you see signs. I know one of the things that EJ would always do, he would always come, like you mentioned, you could no longer do dialysis at home because that was something part of your regimen, talking to her. Well, part of what we dealt with was EJ every night coming, getting in between my wife and I in the bed. So now I can't sleep unless I have a pillow right in between my wife and I.
Yeah.
That sort of represents him.
Yeah.
And it stays there. Yeah. It does not move.
Yeah. With the passing of your kids, do you feel like you love differently now? Love differently, parent differently? Is there things a little different? Do you love a little bit harder now because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow?
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. I don't, and I say that, Heather, to say that I don't take things as serious as I once was. What I do is I try to feel how they feel and what they're going through and be more sympathetic.
Right.
I've taken a big liking to my grandchildren, especially my grandson that's here in Florida with me or in Jacksonville. And I must say, along with my grandkids up there in Virginia, my grandkids here, those ones are the ones that gave me the amalgam, kept me together. You know, because I think if it wouldn't have been for them, I'd probably be in a nut house somewhere because they kept me going. They kept me strong and gave me that will to push on and continue to love them as they are.
For me, it was a different dynamic because, again, like I said, I was a single father of my daughter. So, of course, with her being my first child and my daughter, you know, her name is tattooed over my heart, and the relationships were different. My daughter always had my heart. She was just my everything. But then here comes this young man who is my mini me, who is me all over again. And what I always called EJ, I called him my second chance because I was 20 when I had my daughter. Now, I'm a little bit older and mature when I had my son, so I had a second chance at this parenting thing. The relationship I was probably closer to my son than my daughter because, you know, that 12-year difference, she's out of the house when he's only 5 or 6 years old. Yeah. So she's in college and she's doing her own thing. So, you know, now she's a mother and she has 2 kids. And so, you know, there's a difference. Now, the irony to that is her oldest child, which is my son Josiah, he has so many different mannerisms that are identical to EJ. He's another very smart and intelligent kid. He's soft spoken. He's a nurturer. He's everything that EJ was. I mean, some of the things. So, you know, again, military guy, make my kids say yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. So he says it exactly like EJ. Some of the things he says are exactly like EJ. Yeah. And he remembers EJ when he was younger. So in our house now, we have a room upstairs. So every room in our house we have dedicated. So we have a room dedicated to my mom. We have a room dedicated to my wife's mom. We have a room dedicated to EJ. We have basketball goals up in EJ's room and telescopes and things like that. So my grandson loves those things. So that's where when he comes here, he goes straight upstairs and goes to, I'm going to Uncle EJ's room. And that's where he spends most of his time. Yeah. You know, I have a game room, I have a media room, and I said, I'm going to put your video game in those rooms. No, I want it in Uncle EJ's room. Right. Well, downstairs, my mom's room is my grandson's room, and her mom's room is my granddaughter's room. Yeah. No, I don't want that room. I want Uncle EJ's room.
He knows what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, he has that connection with him. So, you know, he'll go up there and just stare at his pictures and try on his shoes because we have a bunch of shoes. He was a shoe fanatic, so he has a bunch of shoes, quite a few pair that he never put on. Yeah. I didn't realize this while he was in the hospital. He was buying shoes and having all his shoes sent to the house. So I got about 7 or 8 new pair of shoes sitting in my in the closet upstairs that he had. So you know, and we have not gotten rid of anything. So this happened in 2020 when he passed. We have not gotten rid of anything of his. My wife she can't do it. She can't get rid of anything that we had of his. I told her I was going to trade this truck in and buy myself a new truck. And she said, no, I can't. I'm like, I'm not keeping this truck forever. But yeah, but
hey, Heather, I forgot the word that I was trying to come up with. The one word that described Danielle, a firecracker.
A firecracker.
she
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, as a man and a father, do you think the world thinks y'all should be grieving differently? Or is it that you don't show your grieving as much as you think the moms or the women would? Do you think the world expect for you to be stronger? I guess I should say.
I don't think so. I think the one thing that I have had people. So I'm different. I've always been different when it came to social things. And the one thing, you know, when you're dealing with grief, it's hard for people to communicate with you. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to say or how to say it. So one of the things that I often tell people, before you say this to me, And that is this: if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I don't want to hear that, because the one thing that I need is my son, and you can't do that for me. So I just tell them, listen, try to be as normal as possible with me. I am going to be okay. I pray a lot. I've gone through counseling. I continue to go through counseling. I'm going to continue to go through it as long as I have to. I'm not ashamed of that. That has allowed me to be able to get and grieve a little bit more. And so one of the things, so for me, so my story is a little different. I'm hoping you didn't go through this, Donald. So my son died September of 2020. December of 2020, I was in a hospital with COVID. And I remember one morning waking up on December 26th of 2020. I remember waking up. I was in so much pain from COVID. And I just said, God, please take me. I don't want to be here anymore, because the only way I could see my son is to be in heaven. So as I'm sleeping, I'm just lying there, and I see my daughter holding my two grandkids' hands saying, Daddy, please don't go. We need you. So I get up and I pull the IV out of my arm, and I called my wife, because, we couldn't have visitors in the hospital. I called my wife and I said, her name is Tara. I said, Tara, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die in my own bed. And just on the 13th, one of my best friends, we got COVID together. He got COVID, my wife got COVID, and I got COVID. Well, my wife, she got better in a couple of days. My boy, he passed away on December 13th.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm ready to go. I can't take this. So it's a Sunday morning, and I pull the IV out. I called my wife and I said, please come get me. If you don't come get me, I'm leaving the hospital. I'm walking home. And it's probably going to take me 3 days to walk home from where we were. I was in the hospital in Plano. But I went home. I had to sign a letter because it was against the doctor's orders. I went home. I remember my wife taking a folding chair, sitting in the shower so I could take a shower. Didn't have any energy. She just came and gave me a shower and put me in the bed. And over a couple of days, I got better. So that was December. 2 months later, we had a huge ice storm here in Texas.
I remember that.
I lost my house. I had some burst pipes, so I lost my house in the ice storm. That's February 2021. All this time, my mom is battling dementia. So in April of 2022, my mother dies. So now we're talking about a year and a half after my son dies. January of 2023, my father dies. That same year, my favorite aunt dies and my best friend dies. The irony to all of that is I've never been able to grieve anybody else since my son passed. I just went through the motions with my mom's funeral. I went through the motions with my dad. And it was also because they died when they were in their 80s. So I'm looking at that like, okay, well, you guys lived your life. My son was 15 when he left. So I didn't have an opportunity to grieve anything else. So to answer your question, I want people to be as normal as possible with me, because my grieving is still for my son. It has yet to, and it will probably never will get to my parents and my best friend. I think it will always be with my son, because people laugh. I had military buddies. I had college teammates, NFL teammates, high school teammates. I didn't deal with anybody like that. If you saw me, you probably saw me with my son at a basketball game, at a football game, going to the movies, going to the mall, at the basketball court, playing basketball, on the field training. It was all, I'd say in a 24-hour day, I was in my son's presence 22 of those hours, unless it was school time and he was at school and I was at home. And ironically, I work from home. So every day, Dad, can you bring me some lunch? So I'm at Panda Express every day, taking them Panda Express to school. So we were as close as you could possibly be to a child.
Right.
For me, that grieving process, I just want people to be normal.
Right. What about you, Mitch?
I would echo Coach's same sentiments, but I just got a few things to add. I thought the worst thing that a person would do to me would say to me, you know, what happened? You hear that over and over again. And then the other one, well, she's in a better place.
That part.
I'm like, you know, what the hell? What you mean she's in a better place?
That
You know, her better place is with her dad.
Right beside me.
to be right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the additional parts of grieving, like Coach said, you know, I've lost family members. I've lost fraternity brothers. I've lost military people that I was close with. You name it. But the grieving is not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. If I go to a funeral, I'm just showing my presence.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a whole different thing. I can't explain it, but as Coach has said, you don't know it, Heather, until you go through it. And that is one thing I don't wish on no one. And like Coach, when I was sick in the hospital, I'll be honest with you, I was wishing death on myself.
Yes.
I was wishing death on myself because I missed my daughter and I wanted to see her.
Yeah.
And some words were said to me, you know, by my mom, basically, to paraphrase her words, you know, hey, I buried my daughter. I don't want to bury my son. You know, so that's what made me really get stronger and get myself back and to as normal as I could have.
Yeah.
Right, because it'll never be normal.
As normal as I could have.
Yeah.
So because still today, you know, I see people, I smell certain scents.
Yeah.
I hear certain songs.
Certain Christian songs.
I see, you know, people say certain words, and it will always remind me of her.
Yeah.
There's not a day that goes by. You know, I still have her phone number in my phone.
Me too.
I look at it every day. Sometimes I want to press it and see, you know, if she's going to answer. But I'm like, well, hell, if somebody answers this phone, I probably end up passing out and killing myself.
Right.
So yeah, all those little things. And, you know, it gets you going. It gets your blood going. But it's a happy thing. You know, I am happy for the memories. I am happy that, you know, a picture comes up in my phone of her, you know, so it's just a good feeling. But I mean, Coach, you hit everything on the head with all the things you said about the grief process, because everyone grieves differently.
Yeah.
But again, those two questions that I despise, she's in a better place and what happened?
Yeah.
So, and you know, it's funny you mentioned the phone. My phone bill would probably be a little bit lower if I turned his phone off. I still haven't turned his phone off.
I just turned my daughter's off last month, and this is because my phone broke. That's it. That's the only.
I still send him text messages.
Man.
Yeah.
I still send them text messages.
And honestly, like I said, I don't know if I told you, the reason I started this podcast is because it's also to help me with healing. Because I have tried counseling and it didn't work for me. So with me trying to talk to other parents, it's also to see, what are y'all doing to grieve? You know, how are you grieving? How are you going through? You know, what are you doing to keep your child's memory alive? Because it's hard. What y'all just said, y'all, it's good that y'all can look at pictures. It's hard for me when I'm going through my scroll and I see a picture or a video. You know, it's like I try to hurry up and move it so I can't see her face. So it's a little harder for me from that.
Yeah, and to close out the question from me, I have a video my daughter sent me maybe 3 days before she passed. A video of her, because she was I'm a Mason. She's also my Eastern Star sister. And she was at a ball, and she sent me this video of her portraying, golly, I forgot. I want to say Della Reese, you know, from what's that? Harlem Nights.
Okay.
Man, that video,
That's funny.
I'm like, whoo, my daughter, boy, her mouth. But the video have me cracking up every time I listen to
That's
it.
good. That's good.
Yeah. I have, so EJ, he was a little jokester. So I have tons of videos.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you one of the things that I did, because again, for me, keeping his memory alive is one thing, but I also took a picture of him in his casket.
Did you?
And I look at that. So I took a picture of him in his casket, and I also took a picture of him with all the tubes in him and things like that. And every now and again, I will look at it as a reminder to say, okay, he's really gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a lot of times, I'll wake up at night and just stare at my door thinking he's gonna walk in.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Mr.
You
Lost.
dropped him. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I would think he's gonna walk back through the door.
Right.
And
Right.
some nights it still happens some nights. So
Yeah. I do the same thing because I'm in the house by myself most of the time. And it's almost like I still hear something like in her room at times, you know? And
right,
I'm
right.
like, it could be her because like even the other day I was going through something and I was so hurt. I went and laid in her room. I was crying so hard. But I just felt like, when somebody hugs you,
Yeah, yeah,
that's exactly what I felt like. She
yeah,
came up behind me and said, Mommy, it's okay. I'm happy. I'm good.
right.
And that sometimes helps me because I know that she's still here with me, even if it's something
Yeah,
that I have to trick my mind to say this is what's happening, but I feel like she's still here with me, so. But no,
yeah.
I really appreciate y'all doing this. But one thing I wanted to ask, right? For another parent going through this, what would you tell them to help them ease the process a little bit? I know it's hard, but what would you be able to tell them to ease the process just a little bit? And it's really not easy, so I don't even know.
Wow, that's a good question, Heather. I think we all are different. I will say for the first few weeks, months, whatever, embrace it. Embrace everyone that's coming at you, asking you questions and all that. Be sincere, be truthful. Tell the truth about your child. Don't make up nothing. Because your child is whatever she did, that's her story.
Yeah.
And then I would say, do things to keep her memory alive.
Yeah.
Keep her memory alive because to me, that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what matters the most. So that's just all I have.
Okay.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, I totally agree because like you said, tell the truth because at that moment, you are now their voice.
Yeah.
You want to keep that voice going, and you also want to keep that memory alive. But I would also say this: take time to grieve. I mean, if you need to go into a closet by yourself and scream to the top of your lungs, then do it. Don't sit back and hold it in because that's not going to help you from a mental aspect or a physical aspect because your mental will affect your physical. So I can assure you, and I'm sure Mitch can attest to this mental grief has truly affected us physically. I know we're going through some other things physically, but this mental part has affected it also. So I would say make sure you take the time to grieve and do it on your time. Don't do it on somebody else. Nobody else can say, hey, you need to get over it. Nobody else can tell you that, hey, like Mitch said, she or he is in a better place. Nobody else can tell you how it goes. It's got to be on your time, on your terms. It can't be forced. It has to be. So I would just merely say, listen, here is what I did.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can help you. You're going to find that your way, you may do something different that's going to make you feel better. It's not going to make you feel good. I can tell you that now.
Right.
And I'll also tell them this. It will never go away.
That part.
The pain, I don't care what you think about, what you say, how you do it. you can say, okay, yeah, put it in your mind that it's that crazy thought that, yeah, he or she's in a better place.
Right.
Put it in your mind that you are happy. Put it in your, that pain will never go away. Like he said, there's not a day that goes by that EJ does not cross my mind.
Right.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't mention him.
Yeah.
Some days I can mention him, and like today, it's ironic that I'm able to sit and have this conversation without shedding tears. Most days, it took a while. It took about a year and a half for me. Every single day I was crying. Every single day. Now, in my family, I'm the youngest of 4 sons of all military guys. But I'm also the 300 pound. Well, I used to be 300 pounds. I was the big 300 pounder that played football. So I'm supposed to be this big, tough stature, but every day I'm crying. So people look at you like, wow, why are you crying every day? Right. Now, my brothers, they would all say, okay, we understand. We get it. You know, no, you don't get it.
No, you don't.
No, you
don't get it. What you know is status quo says that you're supposed to be sad when somebody dies, right, but you have no idea. But I also tell people this, and this is how I try to motivate them and build them up. Heather, your girlfriend has a daughter. Your girlfriend would not be able to make it if God took her daughter.
Sure.
Mitch, your boy has a daughter. Your boy would not be able to handle it if God took his daughter. Earl, he had to take EJ because he couldn't take my boy's son. God has said, and we've heard this before, God gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers. Some people can't handle it. The fact that we're able to sit here and have this conversation shows the strength that God has given us to be able to handle it. And I tell my friends, like my cousin's wife just died last week. And I told him, your boy's got a wife. You could not handle your daughter being taken away from you, but you can handle your wife being taken away from you. Mm-hmm. And God has given us this special kind of strength. And so that's what I try to motivate people with. There's a special kind of strength that we have that allows us to carry on. Now, is it tough? Certainly, it is. This is the toughest thing. I poured concrete, played NFL football, went through basic training. I've done a lot of tough things. But waking up every day without my son is by far the toughest thing I've ever had to do. But God wouldn't put that on somebody else that couldn't handle it.
Yep. Amen.
He wouldn't put that on you, Mitch, if you couldn't handle it. He wouldn't put it on you, Heather, if you couldn't handle it. So that's how I sort of motivate myself. I sort of motivate. I don't know if it's called tricking myself or whatever, but I truly believe in God. I believe he has a plan. I believe that we are where we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to be, doing what we're supposed to be doing. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Amen.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where there's a strength with people that have lost children that are able to keep going day by day. There's a special kind of strength. And a person that has never lost a child will never know it. I did not know this. My aunt lost 2 children years ago. And in the Black family, when she would do strange things, in the Black family, oh, she's just crazy.
She's crazy.
Yeah, that's what it was. She's just crazy. And now when I lose my son, I'm like, wow, I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with her, how she did it. Because to me, she was normal. She was my favorite aunt. But by the time my son passed, she had dementia. So it wasn't a conversation to be had. Right. So there's a special strength that we all share. So
I appreciate y'all saying that. Mm-hmm.
Hey, but let me leave you with this, Heather. And I think I've said it to you before. Whenever a man loses his wife, what is that called? It's a name for it, right? If a married couple loses one another, it's either a widow or a widow.
Yeah.
Widow or widow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. but there is no name associated with a person that loses a child.
Yeah.
Nothing. Because there's no name that encompasses the hell that we feel.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Yeah. And putting that name widow or widower on it sort of normalizes that.
Right.
There's nothing normal about losing a child.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get where you're going with that.
All right.
If you don't mind me asking, Mitch, what fraternity?
I'm a Sigma.
Okay. One of my best boys here is a Sigma.
Yeah.
I really appreciate y'all being here though. And honestly, I learned a lot. I've already done it with 2 other moms, and then I just did it yesterday with the mom that lost 3 of her kids. And
Wow.
one thing that she said, and I'm gonna put that with y'all, she said she doesn't call it a loss. She calls it that they just transitioned. And the transition, with her feeling like they transitioned, they're here with her. She feels their energy, and she feels like she's stronger because of her not using the word loss. And that's what helps her through her grieving process. But I'm just learning a lot of different things from each of you.
So
Thank you, Coach, and thank you, Mitch, for joining me tonight. I really appreciate y'all being on. This was a really great conversation, and thank you so much for sharing your kid's life, your life, and hopefully this will be able to help other people that are going through some of the similar things that we're going through. I appreciate y'all, and thank you so much. Have a good night.